big moves. He's not even the president yet. He's just the president-elect, and he's already trying to wheel and deal and increase the United States territory, etc. And we haven't even got started yet. It's not even January 20th yet. So holy smoke, right? Child trafficking by the Department of Justice. And I'll show you a whole story that I woke up to this morning that I thought was pretty wild. And I think it's worth sharing. So I'll talk about that. Poilievre talks about the special envoy on Islamophobia. He says they're useless positions, Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, it seems. And he would stop them, and he says to stop dividing people. So I'll show you that video. And Poilievre is also talking about male inmates in female prisons. I'll show you that. He's saying he'd put a stop to that too. I'll show you some censorship on X, talking about the German Christmas market attack. They're censoring that and it's very interesting how they're censoring it. Apparently they re-injected that guy's social media, but some tweets were missing. So I've got that for you today. Chilean nationals are traveling to Canada in order to go on a crime spree vacation. And I wish that weren't so, but that seems to be what's happening. So that's being reported. The Romanian election has some more details, and they're very, very concerning because it seems like the ruling party paid for the program that made it seem like there was impropriety, and so they could call off the election that they were losing, and that's not great. And I've got video of a Sarnia city councilor absolutely losing his mind. He says, "Kiss my ass, and you guys are crooks, you're cocaine addicted," and he says, you're trying to put this kind of stuff through, and you're afraid you're going to lose to me in the next election. It's a great video. We're going to watch it. It's amazing. It's unbelievable. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, Donald Trump saying Merry Christmas. We don't say that anymore, but we say that. Everybody doesn't say that anymore, but we say that, he says. Here we go.
Well, hello, Arizona. It's great to be here. Nice to win the election. That's very nice to win. And I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. They don't say that too much anymore. We say it. Well, hello.
So there you go. Merry Christmas, he says very, very unequivocally. This is, I appreciate the sentiment from Michelle Ferreri. Michelle Ferreri is a conservative MP. She's very active on social media. She's doing a lot of stuff. She's trying to, make changes and all the rest of it. And it's interesting because right at the end, she says Merry Christmas, but the written message is Happy Holidays. Is that a compromise? Is that an acceptable compromise? Should it not also say Merry Christmas? And also the middle of this is kind of used to shame. Shame's not the right word, but it's strange to me how the Christmas message focuses on, you may not be doing well because you may have lost somebody, or you may have done this, or you may have done that, or you may be struggling with this and that. Can you not just say Merry Christmas? Like, can we not just have a united message, a unifying message? Here we go.
It's supposed to be the most wonderful time of year, and for many people, it is. And I hope for children, it truly is magical. And if it's wonderful for you, please share that wonder. Because the reality is, for many families in Canada, it's not a wonderful time of year. They're struggling, whether it's without a loved one or they just don't have the money to make ends meet. So I ask you, please, if you are able, donate to your local food bank, donate to your local toy drive. From my family to yours, Merry Christmas.
Did they cut off Merry Christmas? Merry Christmas. Great. Anyway, right? So what do you think of that Christmas message? Is that like the robust Christmas message you're looking for? Where's the hope of the Christmas season, the hope of renewal, right? Where's the prayer, the hymn, anyway, regardless, it's very interesting to me, these Christmas messages. Everything's used to push the ideology, right? CTV News, let's talk about the election. Seems to be on the horizon very soon. And CTV News says, can the Governor General do what Pierre Poilievre is asking? This expert says no. And to the letter of the law, the expert is right. Like, the expert is 100% correct. All of that said, these are strange times, and there is a clear and present danger to Canada that it seems like Trudeau's ignoring. But the Governor General, we were talking in the kitchen table talk yesterday, the Governor General is appointed by the Prime Minister and kind of not serves at his behest, but, if you get appointed by the Prime Minister, maybe you feel some kind of some kind of loyalty. I was going to say honor bound, but we're not Klingons. Loyalty to that person, which is a flaw in the system. It's a conflict of interest that shouldn't happen, right? Like, realistically, the Governor General should be fully independent and able to act independently and not feel that loyalty to the Prime Minister who appointed them, right? And so that's weird. But can they actually do it? I think probably this expert gets it right. At the same time, I think maybe, I think that there probably does have in the Governor General's office or in the Governor General themselves vested powers that can recall the government, that can try and hold the Prime Minister to account. But possibly that would require the Prime Minister's cooperation. Like, oh, I didn't realize I was destroying the country, everyone. Like, so it may not work anyway. Here's the CTV article. A historically difficult week for Prime Minister Trudeau and his Liberal government ended with a renewed push from the Conservative leader Poilievre to topple this government, this time in the form of a letter to the Governor General. In a Friday afternoon press conference, Poilievre told reporters he was writing to Governor General Mary Simon, asking her to reconvene Parliament and require a non-confidence vote. The letter itself doesn't state that exactly. Rather, it implores her to use her authority to inform the Prime Minister that he must recall the House of Commons so a non-confidence vote can be held. It asks her to confer with the Prime Minister to ensure that he understands his constitutional duty. But can the Governor General do what the Conservative leader is asking? In a word, no. Eric Adams, a constitutional expert and law professor at the University of Alberta, told CTV News, she has one Prime Minister. We wouldn't want it otherwise. She doesn't take advice from the opposition leader. You can send her letters, but she doesn't take her direction from him. Poilievre makes the case Friday that when you add up the Conservatives bloc and NDP MPs who are now indicating that they've lost confidence in the Prime Minister, plus the more than a dozen Liberal MPs pushing for a new leader, it amounts to 70% of parliamentarians. But Adams says Trudeau is still the Prime Minister, and while it may be almost inevitable that he loses a confidence vote, it doesn't matter. Until you lose that vote, it doesn't matter how many people announce they're about to vote non-confidence. You still have confidence. So, I mean, it's weird how the Prime Minister can maintain confidence until a confidence vote's had. But if you're the emo mayor, you get your bank account garnished before the pen ink is dry on the judge's or the Human Rights Tribunal's decision, right? So it seems very icky. But again, I think to the letter of the law, he's correct about this. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to end the show this morning, go about my day, and find out at 2:00 the Governor General has responded and agrees with Poilievre, and there's things in motion. But I don't think that's going to happen. And I was saying on the Kitchen Table Talk yesterday, if nothing happens today, Max said this too. If nothing happens today, then nothing's going to happen, right? So, and because nothing really happened over the weekend, I fear nothing's going to happen, because if it was urgent, if the Governor General saw it as urgent, agreed with Poilievre and saw it as urgent, then they would have acted on the weekend, and they did not, right? So it's Christmas, everyone. Yawn, right? Nobody's in a hurry to do anything about anything. So that's unfortunate. Cat Canada says, Pierre Poilievre, Trudeau's special Islamophobia rep, Amir El-Gawabi, and anti-Semitism reps are useless. He says that, and it's a pretty good interview. So again, I don't talk about Canadian politics as I wish them to be. I talk about Canadian politics as they are. And so this is a good interview with some actual meat on the bones from Poilievre. So good. I mean, finally, right? Here we go.
You know what Montreal Liberals...
Too fast. I'm sorry, everyone. I don't know why I have to say do while I do this, but I often do. Here we go.
Tell me, they're not leaving the Liberal Party. The Liberal Party has left them. And I'm here to say, with my arms wide open, welcome.
So on that front, and
Yes.
I want to talk about the protests, what we've seen for now over a year in this city. Liberal government, they can make the argument, well, we've never invested more. They pay for a special representative on Islamophobia. They pay for a special representative against anti-Semitism,
Wow.
right?
What has that done? Have these special representatives been out in the street shutting down these riots? What, every time there's a problem, Justin Trudeau creates a new bureaucracy, creates a new high-paid position for someone with a corner office making $250,000 of taxpayers' money, and the problem gets worse. Spending more money on these problems is not the solution.
So you become prime minister. People like Amira El-Gawabi and Deborah Lyons lose their posts?
I think these posts are useless. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't think they do anything. And I also think we have to stop dividing people by race, ethnicity, religion. I think all racism is bad. I'm against every form of racism. And I also think we should treat people like individuals. And let's get back to Martin Luther King. Judge people by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. Mm-hmm. There's never been more racism and racial tension than now after 9 years of Trudeau. 250% increase in police-reported hate crimes under Justin Trudeau. Why? Well, one, he allows the criminals out on the street. Two, this toxic wokeism deliberately divides our people into different racial segments and then turns them at war against each other. By the way, we're seeing it happen now in the Liberal Party, where...
We'll leave it there. I think it's interesting where he's discussing where there's never been more racism and racial tension. And the reason for that is I think they redefined hate crimes, and they started only prosecuting crimes through the lens of hate. So we saw this explosion of hate crime when really, like, before there were 15 hate crimes and now there's 45 hate crimes, and you've had a 200% increase in hate crimes, right? And it's like, okay, but murders are happening a whole bunch more too, and gun crimes happening a whole bunch more, and all those gun bans and things that you guys pretend to pass and pretend to care about the country aren't working, clearly, and they don't respond to that. So it's interesting, right? I think all of that is very, very concerning. Here's Viva Fry, and he's highlighting this exchange, and he says, misogyny, what I see as a government-subsidized propaganda spewing government numbers while talking over her guest. So the press, and I'm going to show you in just a minute, the press go bananas for Chrystia Freeland. Chrystia Freeland stands up for Canada. She's proven herself to be a person of principle and political savvy. Just don't look at the economy, okay? Ooh, close your eyes to those economic numbers and forget about what her responsibility was. But, all that aside, Chrystia Freeland stands for Canada and Ukraine, mostly Ukraine, but in Canada, right? Like it's such nonsense, right? So they're pushing for Freeland. So Poilievre seems to be fighting not only other politicians, but the whole propaganda arm of the state, the CBC, and not just CBC, every other news place as well. They seem to be pushing back using the government talking points. So here is the reporter pushing back and using the government talking points on breakfast television. So this is City, and it's very notable, right? Like this is him fighting government talking points. Animated government talking points.
These programs, well, the pharmacare program hasn't given out a single jar of medication, a single pill. The so-called dental care program, according to the government's own numbers, has not helped 97% of people.
Well,
they have
no,
a food program.
1 million
Canadians,
more than 1 million Canadians have access to that program, have received coverage to that program. 89% of dentists in this country, according to government numbers, 89% of dentists in this country have signed up for the dental care program. Would a conservative government gut those programs? Would a conservative government cut the dental care program? Can you tell the 1 million Canadians who are right now receiving coverage under that plan whether or not they will continue to have coverage under a conservative government?
So first of all, you've revealed your own bias in simply accepting government propaganda. We don't know how many people have actually benefited from it. Is that just because you say so, sir? Is that just because you say so? What evidence or data do you have that we cannot trust those numbers? Oh, where do you want me to start? You could start with Monday. Were you awake on Monday? Their deficit was 55% bigger than they said 8 months ago. So we can't trust what they say on financial numbers. Their carbon tax was not supposed to go above 11 cents.
And there are more examples as well. So it's interesting that the CBC is saying, oh, do you have any data? Whereas they take government numbers at face value without questioning it whatsoever. And as I said, the press has decided that the new Liberal leader should really be Chrystia Freeland, and everybody loves Chrystia Freeland. You love Chrystia Freeland. Everybody loves Chrystia Freeland, except they didn't notice that her favorite dress is the red dress, right? Like, and they put her in a blue suit here. So that's weird. Maybe it's to appeal to conservatives too, right? National Post is reporting, Freeland has proven herself a person of principle and political savvy, writes Tasha K. And no, absolutely not. But it's a glowing, it's a glowing report of Chrystia Freeland. Chrystia Freeland has never, but it's funny. This is a tactic used as a concern troll. And the way they do this is, I think this is a concern troll, is they agree with you. Like, oh man, yeah, Chrystia Freeland's the worst. But, right? So you lower your guard and you're like, oh, well, this person agrees with me. Chrystia Freeland's the worst. Okay, we're both the same on that. And then they turn and start trying to convince you that what you guys both just 10 seconds ago believed together is actually wrong. Like, actually the opposite is true. Here's how that works in the article. Chrystia Freeland has never been my favorite politician. Her positions are too left-leaning. Her speaking style off-putting. Her interview with the Secretary of State Hillary Clinton at the 2023 Liberal Convention was cringy in the extreme. But on Monday, Freeland revealed herself as a person of principle and great political savvy. Wait, hold on, what? When Prime Minister Justin Trudeau attempted to throw her under the bus, Like he did with so many of her former colleagues, she didn't submit. Instead, she ran him over, and she might not have just saved her pride, but Canada as well. No, I don't think so. There are times when concerned trolls take it too far. I think that's concerned trolling. Maybe not. Hold on a second. The third response on Google was concerned trolling when I explained what it was to the Google machine. So I may be wrong, but fundamentally, the whole strategy of this trolling thing is saying that I agree with you. I totally agree with you. You and me are aligned. And then taking that and walking you through kind of some mental gymnastics to get you to see it their way. And if you go with them, and the reason you're listening to them is because you let them in when they said, I agree with you, right? That's the trolling part. I agree with you. They never agreed with you. And she never agreed with anybody. She doesn't agree that Freeland has never been her favorite. She loves Freeland. Freeland's paying her for this op-ed. Right? Her positions are too left-leaning. This woman is probably left-leaning. I haven't looked into it. I don't know. But her speaking style is off-putting. Yes, but that's obvious to anybody, right? She sniffs the microphone. It's really weird. And I mean, she nods and she has weird twitches and things like that as well. So all of this is just kind of laying out what people see, and you can easily kind of set that up and walk people away from it while pointing out all of these other things. And I mean, I just think it's another piece of evidence that says the press are controlled by Freeland's office, actually, and not Justin Trudeau's office, not the PMO. Concerned Canadian says, a fired and highly incompetent finance minister to be the next leader? At first, I thought this was a joke. So CBC's running this too. Chrystia Freeland pegged by some Liberal MPs as Justin Trudeau's successor if he resigns. So Freeland's being built up as the heir apparent to the Liberal throne. Weird, right? I don't see it after destroying the Canadian economy, but okay, I guess, if you want to tie your ship to that anchor. Holly Doan says fourth housing minister in 3 years with updated figures showing construction starts are not close to federal targets. I understand there's a short runway. There's next to no runway. Like if Jagmeet Singh gets his pension and can trigger the election on January 27th, there's no time to actually do anything of substance. You can't get anything passed, like build houses. You can't do anything. So I guess he's taking the bribe. Here he is, 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes. He's asked a question about this. It's probably worth listening to, but again, he can't effectively do anything. This is the new housing minister, took over from Sean Fraser.
That you weren't seeking.
Oh, that's too fast as well. Sorry.
Re-election in the upcoming election, and you seem to have put some thoughts before accepting this new job. Why did you accept the job, and are you running in the next election?
I had decided about a year ago, I guess, that I wasn't going to run after conversations with my family. I got 2 young kids. It's actually my soon-to-be 5-year-old's birthday party later today, and this morning at 5 a.m. I was stuffing a creeper piñata with candy. So it's been a day. But it was a tough leadership race last year, and that balance wasn't right. That balance between sacrifice, but also that ability to make a difference. And is the sacrifice justified by virtue of the difference that you're able to make? And that balance wasn't there. And an opportunity came along where you can make an even bigger difference. Sean's a good friend, and he's done important work on housing. Housing, to me, is outside of Canada-U.S. relations the most important file for, I see millions of Canadians who are rightly angry about housing, where they see their parents are better off than they are, even though they're working just as hard and have a job that's just as good. I see, you look around, every one of our communities is affected by homelessness and encampments, and that's a consequence of housing. You look at productivity, and people want to talk about productivity in this country, and we should, and people are leaving my city, my province, and our country because they can't afford to live here. And so look, I understand there's going to be a short runway. I'm not blind to that. But if I can make a small difference, if I can make a big difference, I want to make the biggest difference that I can. That's why I joined politics in the first place, left law for politics. And so, it wasn't an easy decision by any means. And yeah, I consulted colleagues. I consulted my wife more than anything. And I plan to run the next election in order to protect the progress and really in the short term, make the biggest difference that I can.
Does he think he's going to win? It doesn't look like the Liberals are going to win. It doesn't look like the Liberals are going to form the next government. Anand says this is an absolute bombshell. This story is about the cancelled election in Romania is even more sinister than previously thought. So I'm just telling you this because this is the same kind of stuff that's been happening. We've seen stuff like this happening in the United States. So different mechanisms, similar outcomes. They have different tactics, but they achieve the same outcomes, okay? A new report from investigative outlet Snoop.ro reveals that the TikTok campaign, which was cited in the declassified Roman intelligence documents summarized in the post below as evidence of foreign interference and used as grounds to cancel the presidential election, was actually paid for by the ruling National Liberal Party, the very party that supported canceling the elections. Shocked! I'm shocked, I tell you. I'm shocked. According to the investigation, the campaign called, I'm not going to try that because it's in a different language, that the intelligence service claimed was identical to Russian operations in Ukraine, was organized by a marketing firm called Kensington Communication, hired by PNL, the ruling party, who paid Kensington over $1 million RON for it, about $210,000 US. Kensington then used a platform called FrameUp to coordinate 130 influencers with specific scripts and messaging guidelines. This put the declassified intelligence documents in an entirely new light. When what they presented as evidence of foreign interference was actually a campaign paid for by the ruling party, the same party that supported using these allegations of foreign interference to cancel an election they were losing. Even more bizarrely, confronted by journalists, Kensington Communication initially denied using the hashtag, but later admitted to creating the campaign for PNL, claiming that it was meant to be called something else and was changed to this other thing without their knowledge. Yeah, right. This means that either the Romanian intelligence service didn't know this was a PNL-funded campaign when they used it as evidence to cancel the election, which raises questions about their competence, or they did know and they didn't disclose it, which raises even bigger questions about their integrity. In any case, it seems to indicate that something extremely sinister happened in Romania. A ruling party used intelligence services to cancel an election based on foreign interference, evidence that they themselves paid for. Is this ruling party still in charge? If they're still in charge, why are they still in charge? And how do you remove a party that's gone this far, asking for a friend? Just, wondering if they can't deal with their obviously stolen election, how do any of us have hope and heck of doing it, right? We'll call Donald Trump. Hello, Donald Trump. I've got a job for you, sir. Would you like to do whatever you did in the USA and Canada? Fingers crossed. I mean, he's still cleaning up the United States, maybe. So fingers crossed, right? Gov.exe says Canada is a resource superpower and has everything the world needs in abundance. We have the third largest oil reserve and the fifth largest in-ground gold reserve on the planet. There's no reason for 25% of the country to be living in poverty or be trillions in debt. Canadians have been sold down the river by politicians for decades. Yes, that's exactly what's been happening. We've been sold a lie in order to steal our production and our treasure. And they do this, and we have a whole population that's living in poverty. And I mean, we have people in Canada who are paying for healthcare but can't get healthcare. We have people in Canada who should have water but don't have water. And while we do this, we import the people from the third world and put them up in hotels, to the tune of billions of dollars. And nobody really gets upset about that, right? So what's the difference between us and Romania, right? If the ruling party that paid for canceling that election is still in charge. We got sold a lie, as I said, and the lie is diversity is our strength. Here is, this guy he's reporting on a report, I think, and the report talks about how terrible DEI is. So here he is. He sets it up. Here we go.
Greatest lie ever told. In 2007, Robert D. Putnam did a study on diversity within community. What he found was that the more diverse a community was, the lower level of trust. This is within their own group and their outgroup. There's decreased community involvement, lower levels of voter turnout, the less likely they are to engage in civic duties, less likely to donate to charity, they're less likely to trust others. The study also observed that residents in more diverse communities tend to withdraw into themselves, leading to social isolation. This isolation was not limited to cross-ethnic relationships, but extended to intra-ethnic relationships as well. So tell me again, how is diversity our strength?
It's not. It's not our strength. I mean,
The greatest
holy
law.
smoke. Why would they tell us that this diversity stuff that leads to social isolation and self-segregation and all these negative social consequences, why would they sell it to us as our strength? Why would they force us to go into this and do this as a positive thing? Why do you think, right? And I have my suspicions, but why do you think? Andy Lee says, how about I give your company, here's our grab bag of governance, by the by, and Andy Lee's talking about China, and China seems to be benefiting from our leadership who are handing out our money for government contracts in sole source contracts or private contracts that are national security related, and so on and so forth. And so this guy, Li Ka-shing, and he seems to be benefiting and also monitoring Canadians through telecommunications. Justin Trudeau and him met together in 2016, and Trudeau says, a pleasure to work with Li Ka-shing this morning as we discussed Hong Kong-Canada trade and investment. And Andy Lee says, how about I give your company a lot of taxpayer money to help me track my citizens using their cell phone data? And then fast forward to during the COVID-19 thing, they were using this guy's company to track Canadians. Interesting, right? Interesting. Toronto is spending more money on foreigners, and I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. It's an insane amount of money to spend on homeless people. It's an insane amount of money to spend on, shelter for people. It's crazy. It's just bonkers. It's wild. CBC is reporting Toronto breaks ground on affordable housing project with City as the builder. City to deliver 42 units in Parkdale for people at risk of or experiencing homelessness. Listen, hi, I'm at risk of experiencing homelessness. I'm not homeless right now, but I might be in a little while. 2 weeks, What have you got for me? Show me the units that I can get for free. And apparently it's 42 units and it's going to cost $21.6 million. So how much is that per unit? Well, that's $500,000. That's $514,000 for a unit with a kitchen and a bathroom. This is insane. So city officials broke ground on Monday on an affordable housing project, $500,000 a unit. Nope. Which will be the first delivered under a new model where the city is the developer. This is a terrible idea. The project at 11 Brock Ave near Queen Street West and Dufferin Street will contain 42 rent-geared to income and supportive units for people experiencing or at risk of homelessness. The building, which will be 4 stories high, is expected to be completed in early 26. Last year, the city received $21.6 million in federal funding for the project. So at least it's a building and not independent shacks. Jeepers creepers. Like there are multiple places. I think Peterborough's got independent shacks, which just increases the cost, in my opinion. Each apartment will come with a kitchen and a bathroom, plus shared laundry, a commercial kitchen, and a common area for programming. Tenants will pay no more than 30% of their income or the shelter allowance of their social assistance on rent. They'll also have access to wraparound support services to help them maintain health, well-being, and housing stability. So it's a lot of money, and how can an apartment cost $500,000 to build? It seems high, right? Is this really affordable housing? And like, at what point do you prioritize beds over having wraparound apartments and things like that? Like, at what point do you say, here's the room where you sleep. There's 10 bunks in here, so 20 people sleep in here. This is your bunk, keep it clean. Not like a whole apartment. Like, what? It seems insane. Like, how many more people could you house and keep warm, et cetera, if you weren't giving entire apartments to people? It's insane. It doesn't make any sense. It's not rational. That's not a solution to the problem. $21 million? Here is something going on in Texas. I feel like this extrapolates to Canada, but I have no proof that this stuff is happening in Canada. But in Texas, one of their representatives for Congress, I think, is in a care facility, and she's lost her mental faculties. She doesn't control herself anymore. She's unstable and needs to live in a mental health institution or an old age home, and she's still the representative for Fort Worth, Texas. So here's something going on like that. And I think that, I don't know that this is happening in Canada, but I think that Canada could potentially have zombie politicians like this, and it may not look like this, but the zombie politician gets paid, doesn't vote, doesn't show up, right? Omar. Where's Omar Agaba? Right? He's been an MP for the last year. He left cabinet. I haven't seen him. Hide nor hair. Nothing. Haven't seen anything. So you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. That's what I'm talking about. Here we go. Same thing, but different. It rhymes. Here we go.
Can we have a real quick conversation about this woman right here that's in a nursing home?
It's too fast.
She's from this area of Texas, Congressional District number 12. That's Fort Worth, people. That's a very, very important district in the state of Texas. Okay, so this woman somehow ran for re-election. Didn't we just have an election like in November? Aren't these people elected every 2 years? She's been in a nursing home since June. How did she run an election? All right. So I just logged on to the website for the clerk of the House of Representatives. Do you see this column right here? This right here is her voting record. She didn't vote in any of those December voting. She didn't vote in any of this. Let's go ahead and just skip several pages. Do you see this? This is November 20th, November 19th. These are all votes. No votes. Let's 3 more pages. Now in September, no voting.
She didn't vote at all. All 10, and that's all that is shown. So I just feel like that extrapolates out to Canada, and it's not exactly like we're putting our MPs or former MPs in old age homes, but I feel like they disappear and they're not held accountable. They draw salary, and then we move on, and there's 338 of them, and you only ever hear about, certain ones when they're making fools of themselves or when their file is being talked about, et cetera, right? So like you don't hear about Erskine Smith very often, although more often than some others. Mark Garrettson falls out of the news, but they're still there. You can still see them. They're still doing pressers. You can see their activity, right? Whereas some other ones, they just drop off and then you don't hear about them at all. There was an Italian lawyer who's an MP, and he said, I'm not going to do this anymore, but he didn't resign his seat and he just went and practiced law. I can't remember, Pascal, no, I can't remember his name, but it was like a medium big deal, and I laughed about it, but like this happens a lot. So that's weird, right? Like that's really weird. Here is Canadian military is failing, and they're succeeding in some things, but failing in the important things. National Post is reporting new anti-racist Canadian military scrapes new lows for morale capability. More than half of Canada's naval and air fleets are now unfit to meet training and readiness requirements. Hey, Russia, if you're watching, stop watching. This is a national security part, okay? So just fast forward for a few minutes, okay? And certainly don't follow the link that's in the video. Anyway, a new report finds that while the Department of Defense is making steady progress on its new equity and diversity goals, morale is plummeting, and the Canadian military has reached new lows in terms of its ability to actually deploy forces. So yay, making progress on those equity and diversity nonsense goals, but actually being able to do things that the Army should be able to do. Canada's not really interested in that, are we? For the first time, more than half of Canada's naval and air fleets were marked as being unfit to meet training and readiness requirements, according to the military's latest departmental reports. A results report published Tuesday, only 45.7% of the Royal Canadian Navy ships are fit to be used for training and operations, and the same is true for just 48.9% of RCAF aerospace fleets. So yeah, that's like not great. How much do we spend on the military, right? And we can't deploy them. We can't use them most of the time. So that's pretty not great, right? So, but don't worry, the equity and diversity goals are being reached. So dodge that bullet. Or let's talk about Trump, because there's a whole bunch of Trump stuff. And then we've got like more stuff to go too. We've got another little while on the show. So let's talk about Trump. Libs of TikTok says Trump is reportedly planning to pull the United States out of the World Health Organization on day one. The United States is the WHO's largest single donor. Trump exited the WHO in 2020, but Biden reversed it when he got into office. This would be huge. So that's a day one thing. Big things are going to happen on January 20th if everything happens the way it seems to be going right now. And things could change. Who knows, right? Who knows? Fingers crossed, though. It'd be interesting to see. Chuck says Donald Trump is looking at options to buy Greenland. Developing. No word of a lie. That's it. It's truth. John says world map circa 2028, and all of North America is the United States of America, from Greenland to Alaska and down to the tip of Florida, right? So interesting stuff. Do you think that Trump could pull that off? Shipwreck says, so wait, we have a new state in Canada, the Panama Canal, and now Greenland. Do we get to drop or trade some states first? I'd like to start with California. Sorry if you're awake from California. I honestly don't know what else to do. But here's Donald Trump's announcement on the Greenland purchase. And he says, I'm pleased to announce Ken Howry as my choice for the United States ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark. Ken is a world-renowned entrepreneur, investor, and public servant who served our nation brilliantly during my first term as U.S. ambassador to Sweden, when he led efforts to increase defense, security, and economic cooperation between our countries. As a co-founder of PayPal and venture capital Founders Fund, Ken turned America innovation and tech leadership into global success stories, and that experience will be invaluable in representing us abroad. For purposes of national security and freedom throughout the world, the United States of America feels that the ownership and control of Greenland is an absolute necessity. Ken will do a wonderful job in representing the interests of the United States. Thank you, Ken, and congratulations. Let's buy Greenland. All right, kick those tires, Ken. Check it out and make sure it's everything I think it is. So Ken's going to buy Greenland on behalf of Donald Trump and the United States. And Wall Street Mav says, Panama responded to Trump's tweet about the Panama Canal. Then Trump responded by renaming the canal with "Welcome to the United States Canal." We'll see about that. So the leader of Panama, I guess, president of Panama responds to Trump's threat. Every square meter of the Panama Canal belongs to Panama and will continue to belong to Panama. We'll see about that, says Donald Trump, and then follows up with, "Welcome to the United States Canal." So, I mean, the troll master-in-chief is back, and that's kind of fun. Libs of TikTok says, OMG, it's happening. So there you go. We'll see about that. We'll see. Matt Gates says, this is a fact. We aren't taking the canal back from Panama. We're taking it back from China. So Alex says a Chinese company has a de facto monopoly over the porting industry around the Panama Canal. So we'll see about that, says Trump. So that's the real story here. He's not getting into a fight with Panama. He's getting into a fight with China, and he knows it, right? And so that's what's going on here. So the first significant test for Cortizo's China policy came in 2021 when Hutchison's Ports, a subsidiary of the Hong Kong-based corporate group Hutchison's Whampoa Limited, successfully applied for a 25-year renewal of the concessions it had over the ports in Balboa and Cristobal. These ports are strategically located at the Pacific and Caribbean sides of the Panama Canal, which gives PPC a de facto monopoly over the porting industry around the canal. Throughout these negotiations, Panama obliged most of PPC's terms and conditions. So Trump's removing China's influence from there, it seems. So we'll see. That's probably good news, right? True North is reporting Alberta Premier Danielle Smith will be attending Donald Trump's inauguration next month rather than simply watching from the Canadian Embassy as previously planned. So that'll be interesting. Man, I'm thinking I should go down. It'd be fun. I could do it. I could definitely do it. Johnny Maga says, hilarious moment as Donald Trump thought Ted Cruz skipped his speech. Where's Ted Cruz? Is he here? It's pretty funny. We'll watch it because Ted Cruz sneaks up on him. Here we go.
Ted's going to be going to a big event in a little while. Where's Ted Cruz? Is he here? He's here someplace. Ted? Oh, he's in trouble. Oh, he's in trouble. No, he was here. Oh, good. He's not in trouble.
There you go, right? It's funny. It's honest, I guess. It feels honest. So, hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful